Hello everybody, I am your lovely host, Lindsay Eck, coming at you from the Eck Desk. Many of these novels are ones that I've enjoyed, but they're also ones that I haven't necessarily enjoyed. But all of them I feel are very valuable. There are learners who enjoy many different genres, and I particularly enjoy fantasy and science fiction, whereas a lot of other people may not. They might like memoirs or historical fiction, who knows? But I'm going to try to cover an array of novels every single time I do one of these book reviews / book talks. So I encourage you to sit back, relax, grab yourself your favorite beverage. Oh, look how perfect this mug is. Go away, I'm reading. Cuddle up with a soft blanket and snuggle on into this conversation that we're about to have here of those 3 books. So let's go ahead and see if we can put the Eck Desk to work. The first book on the Eck Desk is Diane Guerrero's In the Country We Love, My Family Divided. I read this book actually a few years ago. It's the memoir of American actress Diane Guerrero. For many of you who've watched Orange is the New Black, she stars in that TV show. So if you really like that TV show, this might be a book that you want to read because it's a memoir. For those of you who haven't engaged with that genre before, Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt, Night by Elie Wiesel, they are both also memoir-esque storylines, and basically they're going to detail a moment in time in the life of the person who wrote the storyline. So we have this particular novel right now that I would like for us to talk about. So let me give you a brief summary of this storyline, real brief, because I don't want to give too many spoilers. I don't want this Eck Desk post to be known for spoilers because I want you to go read them if you can. Well, this storyline begins with actually the initial childhood of Diane Guerrero. I'm going to go ahead and put this down because it's getting weird to balance. And how at the age of 14, her parents were actually forcefully taken from her home by immigrant officials. Because Diane's parents and her brother were actually undocumented citizens in the United States at the time, and Diane was a documented American citizen, her parents and her brother were actually deported back to Colombia. So essentially at the age of 14, Diane is left in Boston, Massachusetts on her own to continue to go to school and to build relationships and friendships and kind of find her own way in this world, while her whole entire family is uprooted back to Colombia, where they haven't lived in years. Essentially, the book details Guerrero's life without her family being there with her in America, and her constant fear of immigrant officials, and how she was able to overcome not just that fear, but having to grow up on her own in America, and how she was able to make a success for herself. This book in particular for me was really difficult to go ahead and get started because as somebody who is a Caucasian American living here in the United States, her storyline is completely different than that of my own. But I feel it's very important for many individuals to read stories that push them outside of their comfort zone and discuss things that they are not comfortable with or familiar with. And this book did that for me, and it really and truly honestly taught me a lot about a life I know nothing about, and has made me more of an empathetic person to this day. What I thought was super interesting, and actually didn't quite notice this until the end of the book, was if you look at the cover, it kind of has a play on words. It says, "In the country we love, but my family divided." Right? The country we love, the land of the free, the home of the brave. But yet we have this piece of irony down here that truly brings to light the dirty little secrets sometimes that our citizenry and our country can hold, unfortunately. But I took a lot of notes on the things in this book that I think are kind of the hidden messages that she's trying to get across. For example, immigration reform is very much a call to action, if you will. It's all about being sympathetic or empathetic towards somebody else and their lived experiences, even if those lived experiences aren't our own. And That's why I love Diane Guerrero's book, is she's so raw and she's so true, and she's not afraid to open up that knapsack and have the conversation about the dirty little secrets within our society. I'd give it 5 out of 5 stars. I promise I'll find a better way to rate things in the future, but this is my rating system as of right now. I spent a lot of time on it. Unlike the first book that we discussed, which was published in 2016, this next book was published in the 1800s. So it's an oldie, but a goodie. It's The Count of Monte Cristo by Dumas. I love this storyline. It actually reminds me very much of The Great Gatsby. The storyline itself, once you get past all the historical content, is not just a rags to riches story, but a wrongs to redemption story. So the main character, whose name is Edmond Dantes, he's in love with this wonderful woman named Mercedes. And on the day of their wedding, he's betrayed by pretty much people in his life who he thought were supposed to be his friends. And he is wrongly accused of treason by these people who are supposed to be his friends. Now, here's where things get interesting. So he's escorted off to this prison, right? And while he's in this prison, he meets this other individual there who I believe's name, pronunciations in this book are a little iffy because I don't know French. I believe his name is like Abe. It's A-B-B-E, and then like, he meets this guy who listens to his story, and he's able to confide in him about the treasonous behaviors, and they both come to the conclusion that the reason his friends betrayed him is because one of them in particular wanted his girl. Oh, I feel that. Oh, I feel that. So you have this entire time when he's in prison, him plotting his escape in order to seek his revenge. And what Abe informs him of is, well, treasure. See where I'm going with this? It did have its pros and cons. It was very slow at some points. Like his time within the prison is very elongated, rather interesting in its eventual ending. The time passes in the prison very slowly, and it's like the beginning and the end of the book that really have the good meat to it, and that center part of the book you have to trudge through. But there was a quote in there that really stuck with me even to this day, and I'd like to go ahead and share that with you, especially I think during this time, because many of us are watching this video and we're stuck at home because of the coronavirus. So this kind of has a duality meaning to it, in my opinion. It says, all human wisdom is contained in these 2 words, wait and hope. And by golly, does his wisdom come from wait and hope in this book. But I feel like us too, our wisdom and our intelligence, it can grow as we wait and we hope through this circumstance that's happening to us in life. And as we take advantage of all the learning opportunities that are being put out there on Facebook, on Instagram, even on TikTok, on Google Classroom, etc., etc. You get the point. It's wait, utilize, hope for the best, hope for this to come to an end. But for him, it was wait and hope and hopefully get the girl back. So very much like Gatsby. I would, yet again, give it 5 out of 5 stars. Yes, cheesy, I know, but accurate. If you're someone who doesn't have maybe the time right now to go ahead and read this as a book, they did make a movie out of it in 2002, which is one of my favorites, and it does a fantastic job of kind of following the plot line to the best of its ability, and highly recommend. Okay, our last book is a little on the more recent side, published in the 1980s. It is The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. If you've never heard me say this in class before, I hate horror. Anything. Halloween, I like the happy Halloween. Like the pumpkin Halloweens and the Snoopies that are all dressed up, you know? That's my kind of Halloween. And the cute little lights that shine everywhere. And pumpkin patches. Yeah, that's me. Not this. Not this. For any of you who have heard of the Hellraiser movies, this is the book those movies are based off of. So this might be something you want to go ahead and give a try, especially if you're a big horror fan. Plus, if you ignore, hold my annotations, it's a really, really skinny book, and it has huge font. huge font. So it was a super quick read, but it's honestly one of the most terrifying things I have ever engaged my brain in my entire life. For those of you who love horror, buckle your seatbelts. For those who don't, you don't have to watch this, I guess. I'm going to be brief, though. So the main character of this piece of literature, his name is Frank Cotton. And essentially, Frank Cotton is no longer happy with his life. He feels like he has engaged in everything life has to offer, every single desire. He is selfish and he is single-minded in this pursuit of like the ultimate sensual experience. And so he starts to hear these rumors, right, about this box, this paradox box, if you will. Very much sounded to me when I was first reading it like Pandora's box, because, I mean, even when he obtains the box, because he eventually does, and opens it, it unleashes this whole entire experience for him. So essentially, upon opening this box, he's expecting to get like beautiful women that could fill his heart's desire. And what he gets instead are these creatures, religious figures, not quite sure what to say they are, but not sexy women, right? And he's disappointed. But these figures, they end up being called Cenobites. At least that's how I pronounced it. And they're crazy. Like, the world building in this piece of literature is what blew my mind and kept me up at night and kept me from sleeping, because the Cenobites are very carnal. They don't live based off of pleasure. They live based off of pain. And what they do is they start to reel in Frank, right? And to the point where he can't distinguish anymore what's pleasure and what's pain. And it starts to rule his life and completely take over. The hellish descriptions in this piece of literature will really put you on edge. And you have Frank in here, who very much seems to be using these sacrificial things that he's expected of by the Cenobites to become almost like a psychopath in nature. For those of you who like to dabble your feet a little in this piece of literature, I'm going to read to you a passage toward the end of the book where one of his, I guess you could say, victims is fighting for her life and looking to escape. Well, she sees somebody on the ground. The victim made what little complaint his dislocated face was capable of. Then the antagonist tightened its embrace. The body trembled and twitched. Its legs buckled. Blood spurted from eyes and nose and mouth. Spots of it filled the air like hot hail breaking against her brow. The sensation snapped her from her inertia, and this was no time to wait and watch. She ran. Overall, even though I hate the act of being scared or horror in and of itself, movies and or otherwise, books also included, I'm going to give this book a 5 out of 5 too. And not because this is the only paper rating that I made, but honestly because it was terrifying and it kept me up at night and it kept my interest. I read it very, very quickly within the matter of a day. And if I can do that, then I know that this is a really, really, really good book. And so I'd give it a 5 out of 5, even though it terrified the absolute crap out of me. If any of these books interest you, please try to go ahead and see if they're located on the Libby app, which is a free library app for you to go ahead and check out these books. Or for those of you who have Amazon Prime, go ahead and look into Audible. If you have more access to the movies, please go ahead and watch the movies, as they kind of translate really well to the books. But as an English teacher, I'd always appreciate if you read the books too. That's it for this session from the Eck Desk. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed yourselves and you kind of learned a lot. Learned a little? At least we're entertained. See you next time.